an exciting day because I'm going to install this new 140 watt solar panel from LightLeaf Solar on my 2021 Tab 320S trailer. Now, I was fortunate enough to be able to pick up this trailer used from a private party who only used it a couple of times. Love everything about it except that, well, it didn't have a solar panel on it, and I do want to be able to go off-grid or at least supplement my battery power as best I can. So I was looking for a couple different options. Obviously, there's a number of different suitcase type solar panels out there, but the thing I love about this particular panel is that it has been custom designed for the Tab 320S trailer. What I mean by that is the panel itself has a curvature about it that matches the curvature of the trailer. Now, LightLeaf has been making these panels for a number of years for a variety of different teardrop trailer manufacturers, but they haven't made one for the Tab 320S, or at least not that many. So I reached out to them, talked to the folks over there, sent them some schematics for this particular model trailer, and they made up a panel just for me. So follow along. I'm going to show you how I install it on this particular trailer, how I wire it inside, and take it on a trip to Wyoming. Before we get started, let's go ahead and take a look at the parts that came with this solar panel. Now, one of the unique things about this panel, as I mentioned earlier, was that it matches the curvature of the back of the trailer. The reason why that's important is because this particular model is designed so that you can affix it permanently to the trailer and at the same time remove it if you, say, want to park in the shade and then take the panel off and move it into the sun. That way you can capitalize on two different aspects, obviously shade and sun, to charge your batteries. Now, the panel is held in place by 6 different brackets, or 6 holding points. There's the top bracket or the bottom bracket, depending on how you want to mount it. But this particular bracket right here, you can see it has a little groove. The panel is going to sit inside of that groove, and then it's going to attach by this bracket right here. These are rotating brackets, and you can just slide that right in there. And that's going to make more sense if we put it on the trailer itself. One of the other things about these brackets is that this particular one has an aluminum plate here that you can run a padlock through so that you can lock your panel to, well, hopefully slow down any would-be thieves that would want to get your panel. Now, to do this, what I'm going to do, or to mount these mounts to the trailer, is I'm going to have to drill through the roof of the trailer. It's a little unnerving, I have to admit. That's probably the biggest concern that I have about this whole project, but I talked to the folks over at nuCamp, and as I said before, they sent me some schematics. This was very nice of them, and I'll post this down in the comments. This shows me where the aluminum cross members are that run through the trailer. So in theory, I have a place to screw through. Now, the folks at LightLeaf sent hardware for all of the brackets here. They've got stainless steel, or this is stainless, I believe, screws. Apologies for my pup back there. I like these screws, however, they're about 1 inch long, and based on what I've read about the, in the schematics, based on what I've read about the trailer itself, what I'd rather do is use 3/4 of an inch. And at the same time, I'm also going to be using self-tapping screws, so I can drill right down through that aluminum. So right in here, self-tapping, these are zinc plated. Okay, so I'm going to use those to mount all 6 of these brackets. There's 2 in each. I'm going to be using a sealant underneath. That's a Sikaflex 252. This sealant is designed for mounting a number of different things. One, it's very elastic. It will flex so as the panel, should the panel move with the wind resistance over the top of the trailer, it'll keep a tight bond. They also ship these little foam pads in here that match, obviously, the bottom of the feet. So I'll be using those as well and putting a little bit of that Sikaflex sealant in the holes that I screw for the screws themselves on both mounts. So again, to keep a tight bond. The other thing that I'm going to be needing to do is to mount this SAE port and feed this through the trailer itself. This port is about it's about a 1/2 inch wide and about 3/4 of an inch or 5/8 wide there. So again, that's going to be a much larger hole. Again, I'll be using the Sikaflex as well as the seal that came along with that. Again, in all cases, I'll be using the self-tapping zinc plated screws. All right, last bit of hardware that came with the panel itself. This is actually an accessory. I bought a 13-foot SAE port or SAE cable so that, again, when I take the panel off of the trailer, I'm able to put it off into the sun. while I'm remaining in the shade. A couple of other things I'll mention about the install, and then I'll be showing you as well, is that this particular trailer did not come with a solar panel, but it did come with an SAE port connected directly to the battery in the front of the trailer. That's a connection on the tongue box. Again, I'll show you that in a moment. I like that, but obviously I want to mount the panel to the back of the trailer. So I needed an additional port. I didn't want to have to just take that extension cord and run it around to the front and kind of hang it off the back. I wanted options here. So I can leave the panel attached to the trailer and it will charge while I'm driving with my tow vehicle, or when I take it off, I can connect it to either the port that I'm going to place on the back of the trailer, or if the sun happens to be in the front of the trailer, well then I'll use the extension cord, plug it into the SAE port on the tongue box, and run the panel off in another direction. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. While I was waiting for the panel to be manufactured, what I did was figured out how I was going to run the wiring throughout the trailer. So to start, I needed to figure out how to get the wire from the back of the trailer, where I'm going to be mounting the solar panel, to the front of the trailer, or in the tongue box where I'm going to install, or excuse me, where the battery is already installed. So if you see right down in that hole there, I measured off from the bottom. I got underneath the trailer, figured out where I could actually drill a hole into the floor without puncturing anything. Found the spot, drilled a 1/2-inch hole so that I could run the wires from the solar controller into the hole and then over to the battery. You'll see that the wires are going to travel from the back. It's the black and red wire right back there. I'm kind of taking advantage of a couple of the runs right there. And we've gotten to the point where there's my wires, and I'm going to run them through the ceiling inside the cabinet. Well, at least that's the intent. So we'll see how that works out. But anyways, let's point out one other thing here on the solar controller. So I've got a 3-way splitter here because, again, I'm going to have 2 different SAE ports running into the solar controller. Now, this is the Smart Solar Controller from Victronics. It is designed for a 140-watt panel. Just because I have 2 different SAE ports does not mean I can run 2 panels through this particular solar controller. Now, I could if I got a larger solar controller, but again, the intent here is to use the single panel to plug it into the front or the rear, whichever I so choose. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and go outside, take a look at the solar, the SAE port on the tongue box, and then we're gonna get started with the install of the panel. So the 2021 Tab 320S came standard with an SAE port mounted right here on the side of the tongue box and connected to the battery. Again, if you had a suitcase solar panel with a solar controller on it, you could just simply plug right in there. But what I opted to do again was to mount the panel or plug in the panel either in the front or the rear. So let me point out just a couple of things that I've got going on here. So this is a shunt. Again, this is a Victronics component. This shunt enables me to monitor the charge of the battery using Bluetooth. And again, I've got my wires that I had previously run. We just took a look at that. Those are running through the trailer, running through this loom, and then attaching with a fuse right down here to my battery. And again, that splits with the other port. Incidentally, if you have a Tab 320S and you're interested in running the wires through your trailer, I'll just point out what I did here. Underneath the tabs is a piece of corrugated plastic that keeps kind of the mud and things like that from corroding or getting up underneath your chassis there. So there's 4 screws that hold up this little metal piece right here that kind of holds that corrugated plastic up there. I took that down by removing those screws. Then you can kind of peel this back just a little bit. You can't really see exactly where you're drilling up underneath, so you kind of have to reach underneath there. What I did was stuck my phone in there, took a picture of it with the flash on, and I was able to figure out where I could drill the hole from the inside of the trailer down into the underneath of the chassis, and then route them right here. You can see I'm coming out right here, and we'll tape those up a little bit more, running through right over there, and then up into the tongue box. Not a fun project, not an overly difficult project, but just a little time consuming. Using the schematics of the 2021 Tab 320S from nuCamp, I was able to figure out where those cross members are throughout the frame of the trailer, underneath the skin. So what I did was I measured off of the vent down along the curvature to figure out where the cross members are, and then I've marked them on the trailer where I'm going to drill my holes. So in this case, this happens to be 34 inches down from the fan housing, and then 34 1/4 from either side of the trailer. So these are going to be my center points of the top and bottom brackets, and then I'll do the same thing to the left and the right. All right, I got 2 of these in here. Found the stud, which is what I was worried about, but fortunately the drawing was accurate, as I would expect from the folks at nuCamp for their great quality. There's a couple pilot holes that I've drilled for the 3rd one across the top. And once I get those in, then I'll be moving down to the bottom row, and that's that separate bracket that I mentioned before that looks like that. And again, that piece will spin, enabling you to lock the panel in place. I'll try to do that with one hand. So that is going to fit in like that. Here, we'll hold that at an angle. You should be able to see that there. So again, 3 of those along the bottom. The one in the center is going to have the holes with the aluminum plates to allow you to padlock it. To give you an idea how I'm putting these in here. So I've got these brackets. I've got the self-tapping screws in there. And the brackets themselves came with a foam pad. It's a very sticky adhesive pad. But what I'm doing is I'm also using the Sikaflex to, let's see if we can get that in focus, the Sikaflex on the screws themselves. So I'm giving a little dip in there, and then I'm taking a plastic butter knife and kind of just smoothing that out so that there is the adhesive, the Sikaflex, on the threads of the screws. All right, quick check on the project. Got the 3 points at the top in. Fortunately, hit the studs. Always a little leery of making sure drawings are accurate, but again, the folks at nuCamp did not fail me. Drawings are really right on. And there's that center bracket, the one I told you about before, with the lock. So again, that will just crank down, and then the panel will lift up and out. So I'm going to leave that one in there for now, and I'm going to leave it in place so I can mark the holes for the remaining 2 spots. Now the cable that's hanging out here is going to reach underneath the panel, and I'm going to drill a hole for the SAE port right over here. And so again, that point will be able to stretch the panel off the back with the extension cord, or be able to use the panel up front, the SAE port on the tongue box up front. Let's see here. Yeah, that should about do it. So we'll catch up after I get these remaining 2 points in. All right, so we're done with the exterior, and now it's time to clean it up, connect the wires inside, and wrap up the project. So if you've got a tab, let's see if I can get that. I don't know if that's in focus or not, but what I did was I measured off on the inside and the outside, figuring out where I could pop in and try to keep it as tight as possible. So what I did was I popped in right inside of this little concealed cubby. Normally this has a panel over the top of it, like that. Somewhat, you get the picture. Okay. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drill a hole right in the back and drop right down here, run alongside with this white 1/4 inch loom, and this will drop down below the seats, and it'll be nice and tight, nice and clean. So let's go ahead and get that done, and then I'll review the project when I finish it. All right, after a bit of twisting and turning, I got it all wrapped up, connected the wires in there, and drilled that hole like I mentioned. Ran that loom down, keeping it nice and tight against the corner, and that drops down below the level of the seats. Let me pull back here for a moment. See that? I'm going to reach over to the side here, pull the seat up a little bit so you can see that. There we go. It just drops right down in there, and then I'll just kind of tuck those wires in just to wrap things up. But so again, nice and tight up against the corner, won't interfere with anything. And I'm going to put this little panel right back up in there, nice and clean, and we've got a nice solid solar panel installed. So let me put this panel back up, and then we'll wrap up and kind of do a little walk around the trailer. You can see the different sections and how it was all put together. All right, so we wrapped up the project. It took a little while, not overly difficult, but you know, it does take some jumping around. I probably waited to the worst, absolute worst time of day to do this. I started off probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it was so hot. The surface of the trailer was so hot I had to put a wet towel down to lean my arms on as I screwed in the mounts for the panel. But as you can see here, let me turn this around. The panel turned out really nice. Very, very happy with it. So 6 mounts right through the aluminum trusses, screws in there. Again, to remove, you simply twist this panel down, it lifts off right there. Again, there's 3 of those mounts on the bottom. The center one has an aluminum portion that you can run a padlock through so you can keep it nice and secure. The cable that's attached to the back of the panel runs right underneath, and then it attaches to the SAE port that I mounted right down in here. Now, it stretches across just a little bit because I decided that where this goes in to the trailer inside, I wanted to pop out into a cabinet, and I showed you a little bit of that earlier there, but let's go ahead and take a walk inside and see how that looks. Incidentally, as I get around here to the tongue box, I just want to remind everybody that you've got the SAE port in the back, as well as the one right here in the front on the tongue box. Again, that's going to enable me to plug in if I do want to take the panel off and put it out in the sun while I'm in the shade, either in the front or the rear of the trailer. Go inside where it's nice and cool instead of the hot, humid 90-degree day that we have there. All right, so we'll just open up this cabinet again. Just as a reminder, there's that panel right in there. I popped out right inside of that little compartment, ran the cables right down underneath, through the loom, underneath the seat, and that attaches to the solar controller that's located right under the seat right here. So again, not an overly difficult project, but it did take a little bit of time to make sure all the cables were routed exactly where I wanted them, starting off with running them down into the seat underneath here, out the bottom of the trailer, towards the tongue box where the battery compartment is. After that, I had to run them along through the back underneath the seat, and then again figure out on the top of the trailer where it was going to pop out. I got to tell you, that was the most nerve-wracking part of this whole job, was just, well, one, drilling through the roof of a trailer, and then also making sure it's not going to damage anything on the inside. So overall, really super happy with it. Again, I used Victron components here, Victron electric components with the solar controller underneath the seat inside the cabin, and then I'm using the smart shunt that's up in the front attached to the battery. 2 different components there. What they enable me to do is, one, check the capacity of the battery. The smart solar controller also has an app that enables me to see how much voltage I'm getting with the solar panel. So tell you what, why don't I just switch over real quick. We'll take a look and see what we're getting. It's kind of getting a little bit later in the day. I don't have a whole lot of sun on the panel itself, but it should be pulling at least 10, 20 watts. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so I'm going to launch the Victron Connect application. This is the application that monitors the solar controller. There's also another application that monitors that smart shunt that I pointed out in the tongue box a few moments ago. So again, I was kind of guessing at what the wattage was going to be pulling for the panel itself. It's a little after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sun's moved off to the west behind the houses and some trees to my left, or to the west, I guess. And I was actually right. I was right around 20, 25 watts, which is one of the great things about this particular panel. It does a great job of pulling in energy even in partly sunny conditions. So again, this late in the afternoon, I'm satisfied with that. That's enough to run the fantastic fan up in the ceiling and still leave a little power, so we're still leaving it at 100% where we're topped off. Incidentally, it was a little louder a moment ago. That was the air conditioner that was running inside the camper. I'm plugged into an extension cord that's plugged into my garage. Was not running the air conditioner off solar. If you're wondering about that, you do require more juice than is provided from a solar panel and your battery to run the air conditioner. But anyways, really satisfied with this project. It was a little nerve-wracking, as I mentioned before, about drilling through the camper itself, but got it done. It's nice and tight, nice professional finish. I'm really happy with it. And I got it done just in time. I'm getting ready to go out of town for a business trip, and then as soon as I get back, we're going to be heading off to Wyoming, testing out this panel. We're staying at a couple different harvest hosts on the way out there, so we will be boondocking or dry camping without any power source. So the solar panel is intended to keep us topped off so we can run our fans, electrical equipment, LED lights, charge our phones, things like that. Nothing too heavy duty, and the refrigerator, of course. So again, that's about all for this install. But if you're done, just want to watch the install, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm going to put some in-use footage into this video on our way out to Wyoming so we can get a chance to see just how well it performs. So again, if you're done, thanks for joining me. Otherwise, stick around. We'll take a look at this panel. All right, so we're out here in Buffalo, Wyoming, and I wanted to give you guys a little look at how this solar panel from LightLeaf works. So I've already mentioned before that it's been custom designed for this Tab 320S. But the thing I love about it, and the thing that makes it so much better than a lot of other panels, is the fact that it's versatile enough to be placed on the trailer, but in a case like this where I'm in the shade and I still want to take advantage of the sunlight, I can remove it from the trailer and place it outside the shaded area by an extension cord and still take advantage of that sun. So the way this works is just turn these knobs right here on both sides. And I've mentioned before, this one has an aluminum bracket where you can put a padlock on it if you want to secure it. I don't have it locked right now, so now that I've turned them all, I'm going to unplug it from the SAE port that I installed on the back of the trailer. Now I can just lift it up out of its case and pull it out. Now there's about a 4-foot cord on here. In the back you can see these legs. I'm going to open these up. Just set it right over here in the sun. Pretty good. And you can get a different extension cord. I've just got a 13-foot cord here, so this should work. I'm going to go ahead and plug this into my SAE port. Plug it right in over here, and we are good to go. So just like that. Now I don't have my phone on me. Actually, I don't have my phone on me because that's my phone right there. But what I would do is open up the Victron Energy, and by the way, I think I've called it Victronics, I think I've called it Victron Electric, I've called it all sorts of different things, but I'd open the Victron Energy app and take a look and see what kind of voltage we're getting. Right about now, we're getting pretty full sun. I'd imagine that this is at least 75, 80 watts of energy right here. So anyways, again, this is the great thing about this LightLeaf panel. I can keep it on the trailer, or I can place it over here in the sun and still take advantage of the good energy that we're drawing in. So this is just one of a few different stops along our trip to Wyoming. So we'll take a look at a few more as we go along. Now I know I said I was going to show you the panel in a couple of different locations along our travels, but what I found was that I actually did not wind up removing the panel from the trailer any more than the time that I just showed you in the previous clip. Ultimately, I was either charging our batteries with our tow vehicle as we traveled between locations, or I found myself with shore power, or I was in a position to simply leave the panel on the trailer itself. But ultimately, I did monitor it at every stop where I wasn't plugged in to see what kind of charge I was getting. I averaged anywhere between, 0 and in the evenings, clear on up to about 85 watts at various points throughout our travels. So super happy with the performance of the LightLeaf panel. The install held up great. No issues whatsoever. Again, thanks to the folks at nuCamp for providing me with the schematics so I knew exactly where I could drill through the roof of the trailer to make sure that I secured it properly. And by the way, I should mention that in our travels on the way home yesterday, we went through every bit of 200 miles of hard driving rain. And I was a little bit concerned, just wanted to make sure that everything was cool. So I went throughout the trailer, looked around, made sure that there were no leaks, and I'm happy to say that it's been rock solid. So the sealant that I used held up really well. The water traveling over the top of the trailer did not perforate or interfere or get into any of the holes that I had drilled to hold the mounts down. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you are interested in a panel from LightLeaf Solar, I just found out that they have placed it, or they have made it available on their website, so check them out at lightleafsolar.com. If you got any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I will do my very best to respond promptly and give you any tips and tricks that I uncovered along the way and during the install process. Thanks a lot, guys.